Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Andrew, and I'm here to do my manga review for My Hero Academia Manga Chapter 371 titled Together with Shoji-kun. Aww, Shoji-kun. This is going to be a very wholesome chapter, isn't it? Oh yeah, I forgot, we're talking about discrimination and racism, aren't we? Anyway, this was a very good chapter because not only was there a focus on Shoji as well as Spinner, but also, weirdly enough, there is a strong focus on Coda and potentially that he got a quirk upgrade in this chapter, and we will be getting into that right now. Because when it comes to this chapter, there is a fair amount. For instance, it's finally revealed that the individual that was leading the charge and was a former lieutenant of the Paranormal Liberation Front, yeah, he's not on the up and up. He is using Spinner as well as everyone around him to achieve the goals of Skeptic, which is that when it came to the Paranormal Liberation Front, the main idea is that the strong will overcome the weak and rule the world. Survival of the fittest, pretty much, and we see that that is most likely what he's trying to do, as throughout this chapter, he spurs up the civilians. Even when the civilians begin to question, hey, maybe this other guy has a point, he just comes in and ruins everything. So what I'm really hoping, and we see this at the end of the chapter, that he's going to get his comeuppance via Coda. And let's talk a little bit more about Coda, because what is very interesting about this chapter is actually how Coda is the one that is the actual focus of this chapter to an extent. And that comes from the fact that when we get the flashback in this chapter, it is from Coda's perspective, even though it is a flashback that reveals a lot more information about Shoji. And pretty much how it is revealed that Shoji revealed his face to his classmates, he told them how he got the scars, and pretty much what you would expect, the students of Class 1A join his side and hug him. And what I enjoyed about this part of the flashback is just seeing how much this plays into how these kids and how these characters are portrayed throughout the story, and how something like Shoji showing his face would not have affected them in the slightest because they are friends, because they care about them. And that an argument is said that this is something that we should have seen earlier, but I would make the argument that when it comes to this, it makes sense to have it at this point in the story. Because it really doesn't add that much to the character of Shoji that we already didn't know. We do know now more of a concrete understanding of why he wants to be a hero, and it's that because of an instance of him saving a girl, he found pride in being able to have a quirk like this, and that it was the only happy memory he had when he was proud to have his quirk. But pretty much everything else we could have anticipated or predicted that it was a part of his character based off his interactions with the other students, and the fact that when it comes to the students of Class 1A, they want to be heroes just for more altruistic reasons. Shoji wants to be cool, but he also wants to be a cool hero so that he could promote this idea that people with heteromorphic quirks can be heroes to eventually, over time, get rid of discrimination. Because he brings up a very valid point in this chapter with Spinner about how what Spinner is doing is going to set back the cause by 30 years or so. Now, how did he come up with that number? Semantics, statistics, it doesn't really matter. But what he is saying is accurate in that he himself is not going to be the one that is going to be actively advocating for the heteromorphs, and that he's going to be the symbol that the heteromorphs need for a better future, but that he's just going to do what he wants, and that is him being a hero, and that he's not going to accept what Spinner is doing unless it's for an actual good reason. So a lot of the stuff that we get in this chapter about Shoji that develops Shoji as a character is a lot of information that we could have heavily implied throughout the entire story. And probably of the flashback that I enjoyed the most involving Shoji is the idea that when it came to Mineta, he called Shoji an octopus at one time, and he was overreacting like, oh my gosh, was that something racist or discriminatory? I'm so sorry, Shoji. And Shoji just responds with, yo, I literally just called myself Tentacle. As well as the fact that I watched like the heroes who look like villains, and they're probably mostly heteromorphs. It's fine, it's cool. And I just really enjoyed that moment with Shoji. But what is even more interesting about how all of this is actually tied into Coda, and pretty much how this ties into Coda's story in a way about him going from someone who is very shy and aloof and doesn't like interacting with people to accepting people to be his close friends to the point where he's able to just jump upon them, communicate with them, and speak his own mind. And we see that throughout the entire story, how he also stood up for Jiro, how he stood up for Deku, and now we're seeing that he's standing up for Shoji. And by this doing so, this flashback triggers most likely something in Coda's body for his quirk to potentially go through a quirk evolution, a quirk awakening, which is seen as we have this individual of the Paranormal Liberation Front laughing at Shoji, Coda just stops it and sends out a literal flock, if not a murder of birds after this guy with his literal horn breaking off and transforming into something bigger. And yes, that thing on his head is a horn. I have no idea whether or not it's going to be used as a weapon, but it's going to look cool within the next chapter. So I really liked how, even though this flashback seems to be a focus on Shoji, it is actually used to build up the character of Coda and to really push along what his journey has been throughout the entire story, which is him making friends, being more vocal, and fighting for his friends. So there was a lot of cool stuff in this chapter, as well as a lot of cool action in this chapter, but what was just as cool is the final pages of this chapter of Shoji going in and attacking Spinner, as we see how much of a hypocrite Spinner actually is. And when it comes to Spinner, in this chapter, there isn't that much that really develops him, but there is some development for Spinner. We see that once again, he's pretty much going with the flow. He has no own personal ideals. He has no really true personal wants. All he wants to do is support Shigaraki Tomura. And we do get a fun interaction of them bonding, most likely over LOL, League of Legends, as they are both just gamer nerds. But we also learned that when it came to Spinner's quirk, he has 3 quirks currently. He has Gecko, he has durability, and he has a new ability called Scale Armor, which, as we see in this chapter, it gives him a whole bunch of scales and makes him even more dangerous for Shoji to deal with, as these things are cutting into Shoji. But luckily enough, because of Shoji's quirk, this will not affect him that much. And that when it comes to how Spinner is in this chapter, he is no leader. He's just doing what he believes is right, which is helping his friends, but he doesn't really have his own motives, unlike the other characters, and that just fits with Spinner's character perfectly. He's a bandwagoner. That's all that he can be, and that's all he will be, unless he learns to fight and think for himself and not be told what to do by others. Which I think is going to eventually lead to potentially him freeing Kurogiri, not because of what All For One wants, but because of something that he wants, which is to help Shigaraki Tomura. But besides that, there was just a very fun interactions between Spinner and Shoji when it comes to the action in this panel. And once again, the hypocrisy of what Spinner says to Shoji is that he calls Shoji gross, but Shoji embraces it. Showing that even though Spinner may have been through discrimination in his story, Shoji has done so as well, but he's been able to get over it because he also found something that is worth fighting for, while Spinner is still looking for something that he can call his own, that he can truly fight for. So overall, I really did enjoy this chapter of My Hero Academia, even despite what other people may say about this chapter. But overall, I really enjoyed what this chapter provided for the story of My Hero Academia. I love the character interactions. I like the setup for what's going on with Coda. I like seeing a little bit more about Shoji's backstory and why he wants to be a hero. I love the interactions and what was revealed about Spinner, showing more of his character, and I love to see that little Paranormal Liberation front man being put in his place by KODA within the next few chapters. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for this chapter and this review for My Hero Academia Manga Chapter 371. So let me ask you this. What did you think of the chapter? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Leave your thoughts down in the comments down below. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz. And hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!